Dramily.com, unlimited drama series.
The coffee was still hot when Erica announced she was leaving me for 2 weeks. Not in those exact words, of course. She called it a business trip with her boss, Daniel Patterson, to some corporate retreat up north. But the way she avoided my eyes while packing that new red dress I'd never seen before told me everything I needed to know about the nature of this business. "It's a big opportunity, Jake," she said, folding silk lingerie into her suitcase with the care of someone preparing for a wedding night. "Daniel thinks I'm ready for the regional manager position. This retreat could change everything for us." Us, right. I watched her pack from our bedroom doorway, my mechanic's hands wrapped around a coffee mug that read, "World's Best Dad," a Father's Day gift from our daughter Emma before she went off to college. The irony wasn't lost on me. 2 weeks seems like a long time for a business retreat, I said, keeping my voice level. 22 years of marriage had taught me when to push and when to let things slide. This felt like a sliding moment, even though every instinct screamed otherwise. Erica finally looked at me, her green eyes flashing with that mixture of guilt and defiance I'd seen more often lately. "It's not just a retreat, Jake. There are client meetings, strategy sessions, team-building exercises. Daniel says the company is investing heavily in this program," Daniel says. Everything was Daniel says these days. Daniel Patterson, Vice President of Sales at Morrison Industries, where my wife had worked her way up from administrative assistant to senior sales manager over the past 8 years. 42 years old, divorced, drives a BMW, and apparently thinks my wife is ready for bigger things. "When do you leave?" I asked. "This afternoon. The flight's at 3. She zipped up the suitcase with a sharp sound that seemed to cut through the morning air. "I'll call you every night, I promise. And Jake," she walked over and kissed my cheek, her perfume, a new scent I didn't recognize, lingering between us. "Try not to worry. This is good for our future." Our future. I nodded and smiled, playing the part of the supportive husband while my gut twisted with certainty that our future was about to become very different than what she had in mind. After she left, I stood in our empty house in suburban Millbrook, listening to the tick of the grandfather clock her mother had given us for our 10th anniversary. The silence felt heavy, loaded with all the things we hadn't said to each other over the past few months. The late nights at the office, the business dinners, the way she'd started dressing differently, carrying herself differently, like she was auditioning for a role in someone else's life. My phone buzzed, a text from Erica. "Boarding now. Love you." I typed back, "Love you too. Have a safe trip." The lies came so easily now. The next few days passed in a routine that felt both familiar and strange. I opened Jake's auto repair at 7 each morning, worked on engines and transmissions until 6, came home to a house that echoed with emptiness, and waited for Erica's nightly calls. She was good about calling, I'll give her that. Every night at 9 o'clock sharp, her voice would fill the kitchen through my phone's speaker while I ate whatever I'd thrown together for dinner. "How was your day?" she'd ask, and I'd tell her about Mrs. Henderson's Buick that needed a new transmission or Tommy Rodriguez's pickup that was making that grinding noise again. She'd make appropriate sounds of interest, but I could hear the distraction in her voice, like she was only half listening while the other half of her attention was focused on something, or someone else. "How's the retreat going?" I'd ask in return. "Oh, you know how these things are. Lots of meetings, PowerPoint presentations, networking events. Daniel's been really helpful, showing me the ropes with the executive crowd." Daniel again. Always Daniel. On Wednesday night, her call came 20 minutes late. "Sorry, honey," she said, slightly breathless. "The dinner ran longer than expected. You know how these business dinners can be." "Sure," I said, stirring pasta sauce that had gone cold while I waited. "What kind of restaurant?" A pause. Just a beat too long. "Oh, just some steakhouse. Very corporate, very boring. I actually left early because I was so tired." But in the background, I could hear music. Not the generic jazz you'd expect from a corporate steakhouse, but something softer, more intimate. And was that the sound of waves? "Are you near the water?" I asked. Another pause. "Water? No, I think that's just the air conditioning. These old hotel buildings, you know how they are. Listen, I should get some rest. Early morning tomorrow." "Of course. Sleep well. Love you, Jake." Love you too. After she hung up, I sat in the kitchen for a long time, staring at my phone and thinking about the sound of waves. The corporate retreat was supposed to be at some conference center in the mountains. Last time I checked, mountains didn't have waves. Thursday morning brought rain and a nagging feeling in my chest that felt like a combination of heartburn and dread. I was under the hood of a Ford Explorer, trying to diagnose a cooling system problem, when my phone rang. Jake's Auto Repair. Jake, it's me. Erica's voice sounded different, rushed. I just wanted to call quick before my next meeting. I glanced at the clock on the garage wall. 11:30 in the morning. Everything okay? Yes, fine. Great, actually. Daniel thinks I'm really impressing the other executives. He says I have exactly the kind of forward-thinking approach they're looking for in the regional position. That's great, honey. You've worked hard for this. I have, haven't I? There was something in her voice, a kind of breathless excitement that I hadn't heard in years. Not since the early days of our marriage, when everything felt possible and the future stretched out before us like an open road. Jake, I think this trip might really change things for us. I hope so. I have to run. Another strategy session. I'll call you tonight, okay? Okay. I love you. Love you too. But she'd already hung up. I spent the rest of the day with my hands deep in engine grease and my mind churning through possibilities I didn't want to consider. When I got home that evening, I found myself walking through our house like a detective, looking for clues I'd missed before. In our bedroom, I opened Erica's jewelry box. Her wedding ring was missing, of course. She always wore it. But her grandmother's pearl earrings, the ones she only wore for special occasions, were gone too. So was the gold bracelet I'd given her for our anniversary last year. In the bathroom, her good perfume was missing. The expensive stuff she saved for important events. In the closet, I found empty hangers where her best dresses used to hang. Not just business attire, but the kind of dresses she wore when we went out for romantic dinners, back when we still had romantic dinners. My phone rang at 9:15. Hi, honey. Erica's voice was warm, relaxed, happy. Sorry I'm a little late. We had this amazing dinner at a restaurant right on the lake. The sunset was incredible. The lake. Not the mountains where the corporate retreat was supposedly taking place. Sounds beautiful, I said. It really was. Daniel knows all the best places up here. He's been such a wonderful guide. I bet he has. If she heard the edge in my voice, she didn't acknowledge it. How was your day? Fine. Fixed Mrs. Henderson's Buick. Started on the Rodriguez pickup. That's nice. Listen, I'm exhausted. This whole week has been so intense. So much information to absorb. I think I'm going to turn in early tonight. Sure, get some rest. I will. Love you, Jake. Love you too, Erica. After she hung up, I poured myself 3 fingers of whiskey and sat on our back porch, looking out at the small yard we'd tended together for 15 years. The garden where she'd planted roses, the deck where we'd hosted barbecues for friends and neighbors, the swing set we'd put up when Emma was little, now rusted and unused. Everything looked the same, but it all felt different now, like I was seeing it through new eyes, or maybe seeing it clearly for the first time in months. The rain had stopped, and the night air was cool and clean. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. A car drove by, its headlights sweeping across our front windows. I finished my whiskey and went inside, locking the door behind me. Tomorrow was Friday. Day 5 of Erica's 2-week business trip. I had a feeling it was going to be an interesting day. Friday morning started like any other, except for the knot in my stomach that had taken up permanent residence since Erica left. I was getting ready for work, grabbing my coffee and keys, when I noticed her iPad sitting on the kitchen counter. She'd forgotten it. In all her careful packing, all her preparation for this business trip, She'd left behind the device she used for everything: reading, email, video calls with Emma at college. It seemed like an odd thing to forget for someone going to a corporate retreat where she'd presumably need to stay connected. I stared at the iPad for a long moment, my coffee growing cold in my hand. The smart thing would be to leave it alone, call her and let her know she'd forgotten it. The trusting husband thing to do. But I wasn't feeling particularly trusting. I picked up the device and pressed the home button. No passcode, she'd never bothered with one since we were married, said she had nothing to hide from me. The irony of that thought made my chest tight. The screen lit up, showing her usual wallpaper, a photo of the three of us from Emma's high school graduation 2 years ago. We looked happy. We looked like a family. I almost put it down then. Almost. Instead, I opened her Messages app. The conversations were synced with her phone, showing everything from the past week. Most of it was mundane: texts with Emma about college, messages with her sister about their mother's birthday next month, work-related communications with colleagues. And then I saw the thread with Daniel Patterson. My hands were shaking as I opened it. The messages went back weeks, months even. What started as work-related communications had gradually shifted into something else entirely. Something that made my stomach drop and my vision blur around the edges. Can't wait for our trip. Finally, 2 weeks, where we don't have to hide. I've been dreaming about waking up next to you every morning. Booked the couple's suite at Lakeside Resort, the one with the private hot tub we talked about. Jake suspects nothing. He's so wrapped up in his little garage, I could disappear for a month and he'd barely notice. That last one hit like a punch to the gut. Not just because of the betrayal, but because part of me wondered if she was right. Had I been that oblivious? That absent from my own marriage? I kept reading, my coffee growing cold, my hands growing steadier, as shock gave way to something else. Something colder and more focused. Brought the red dress you like, and the black lingerie. Can't believe we have to wait until Sunday to be alone. These business dinner excuses are getting harder to maintain. Don't worry. After this trip, we'll figure out how to be together for real. I'm ready to leave him. Ready to leave him. Ready to leave me. I screenshotted everything. Every message, every photo she'd sent him, every plan they'd made for their romantic getaway, disguised as a business retreat. My phone's camera roll filled with evidence of my wife's affair, each image a nail in the coffin of our 22-year marriage. When I was done, I set the iPad back exactly where I'd found it and walked out to my truck. I sat in the driveway for 10 minutes, engine running, trying to process what I'd just learned. Erica wasn't at a corporate retreat. She was at Lakeside Resort, 4 hours north of here, playing house with her boss in a couple's suite with a private hot tub. She'd lied about everything: the location, the purpose of the trip, even the other people who were supposedly there. My phone rang, Erica's name on the screen, her smiling face from last Christmas looking up at me. "Hi, honey," I answered, surprised by how normal my voice sounded. "Good morning. I just wanted to hear your voice before my first session today. How are you?" "I'm fine, just heading to the shop. How's the mountain air up there?" A pause. "Oh, it's crisp. Really beautiful. You'd love it." "I'm sure I would. What's on the agenda today?" "More meetings, team building exercises. Daniel's really pushing us to think outside the box, you know? Challenge our assumptions about what's possible." Challenge our assumptions, right. "Sounds intense," I said. "It is, but in a good way. I feel like I'm really growing, you know? Becoming the person I'm meant to be." The person she was meant to be. Apparently that person was someone who lied to her husband while planning to leave him for her boss. That's wonderful, honey. I want you to become whoever you're meant to be. You're so supportive, Jake. I'm lucky to have you. Lucky to have me. The woman who was planning to leave me felt lucky to have me. "I love you, Erica. I love you too. I'll call you tonight, okay? I'll be here." After she hung up, I sat in my truck for another few minutes, watching our house. The house we'd bought together, painted together, filled with memories and dreams and plans for the future. Plans that apparently only one of us still believed in. Then I put the truck in gear and drove to work, my mind already moving from shock and hurt to something else entirely, something that felt like the beginning of a plan. If Erica wanted to challenge assumptions about what was possible, I was happy to help her with that. The question was, what was I willing to do about it? By the time I reached the shop, I knew the answer. Saturday passed in a blur of routine work and careful planning. I spent the morning replacing brake pads on a Honda Civic and the afternoon researching Lakeside Resort online. 5-star accommodations, couples packages, romantic dinners overlooking the water. Everything Erica had described in her messages to Daniel, and nothing like the corporate retreat she'd described to me. The resort's website showed photos of elegant suites with lake views, private balconies, and, yes, hot tubs. The couple's package included champagne service, spa.
He texted at 2 a.m. Leave the door unlocked. You left our door unlocked for him?
Once it was
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
treatments, and reservations at their award-winning restaurant. The kind of romantic getaway Erica and I used to take in the early years of our marriage, before mortgages and careers and the slow drift of familiarity had settled over us like dust. I closed my laptop and poured myself a beer, sitting on the back porch as the sun set behind the trees. Tomorrow was Sunday, day 8 of her trip. According to the messages I'd seen, they were planning something special for their last few days together. A celebration of their new beginning. I had a different kind of celebration in mind. Sunday morning, I was on the road by 6 a.m., 4 hours to Lakeside Resort, according to my GPS. I'd told my assistant manager, Pete, that I was taking a personal day, family emergency, needed to drive upstate. Not entirely a lie, depending on how you defined family emergency. The drive gave me time to think, to plan, to let the reality of the situation settle in my bones. Erica was leaving me. Not just for the weekend, not just for a fling, but permanently. She was ready to leave him, leave me, for a new life with Daniel Patterson. 22 years of marriage, 22 years of shared dreams, shared struggles, shared hopes for the future. Emma's first steps, her first day of school, her graduation. The miscarriage we'd weathered together when Emma was 5. The year I'd almost lost the shop during the recession, and Erica had worked double shifts to keep us afloat. The night we'd sat up planning our retirement, talking about traveling together, maybe buying a little place by the water. All of it apparently meant less to her than whatever Daniel Patterson was offering. I reached Lakeside Resort at 10:30. The place was everything the website had promised: elegant, romantic, expensive. The kind of place where corporate executives took their mistresses, not their employees, to business retreats. I parked in the visitor lot and walked into the lobby, trying to look like I belonged. The desk clerk, a young woman with a professional smile, greeted me warmly. "Good morning. How can I help you?" "I'm supposed to meet some colleagues for brunch," I said. "Daniel Patterson's party? I think they're staying in one of the suites." Her fingers flew over the keyboard. "Oh yes, Mr. Patterson. He and his wife are in the Sunset Suite. Beautiful choice. The restaurant is just through those doors, and I believe they have a reservation for 11. His wife. They were registered as husband and wife. Perfect, thank you. I found a seat in the restaurant with a clear view of the entrance and ordered coffee, my hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my system. At exactly 11 o'clock, they walked in. Erica looked radiant. That was the word that came to mind. Radiant in a way I hadn't seen in years. She was wearing the red dress, the one I'd never seen before, and her hair was styled differently. Softer, more romantic. She was laughing at something Daniel had said, her hand resting on his arm with casual intimacy. Daniel Patterson looked exactly like I'd expected. Tall, well-dressed, confident in the way of men who'd never had to work with their hands or worry about making payroll. He guided Erica to a corner table with a perfect view of the lake, his hand on the small of her back, and a gesture that spoke of ownership, of possession. I watched them order champagne, watched Daniel feed Erica strawberries from his plate, watched her lean across the table to whisper something in his ear that made him laugh and reach for her hand. They looked like honeymooners. They looked happy. I took photos with my phone, careful to stay hidden behind my menu. Wide shots showing them together, Close-ups of their intertwined hands, Daniel kissing Erica's cheek while she smiled with her eyes closed. Evidence that this was no business meeting, no corporate retreat. After an hour, they left the restaurant, Daniel's arm around Erica's waist. I waited 5 minutes, then followed them outside. They were walking toward the lake, taking what looked like a romantic stroll along the water's edge. I got back in my truck and drove home, my mind already moving to the next phase of the plan. Because now I had proof. Now I had evidence of exactly what kind of business trip my wife was really on. And more importantly, I had an idea of how to make sure there were consequences for both of them. The drive home passed quickly, my thoughts focused and clear for the first time in days. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Erica called at 9 that night, right on schedule. "Hi, honey, how was your day?" "Quiet," I said. "Worked on some projects around the house." "How was yours?" "Wonderful. We had this amazing brunch at the resort restaurant. The hotel restaurant. The food was incredible, and the view of the lake was just breathtaking. The lake, she'd told me, was air conditioning noise. The restaurant where she'd been holding hands with Daniel Patterson while registered as his wife. Sounds romantic, I said. It was. It was beautiful, very inspiring. Sometimes a change of scenery really helps you see things clearly, you know? I know exactly what you mean. Jake, there's something I want to talk to you about when I get home. About us, about our future. I've been doing a lot of thinking up here. I'm sure you have. I think we need to have an honest conversation about where we are, about what we both want. An honest conversation. From the woman who'd been lying to me for months. I look forward to it, I said. I've been doing some thinking too. Good, that's good. I love you, Jake. I love you too, Erica. After she hung up, I sat down at my computer and began typing. An email to Morrison Industries corporate headquarters, specifically to their Human Resources Department and Internal Audit Division. I kept it simple, professional, and devastating. To whom it may concern, I have reason to believe that employees Daniel Patterson and Erica Morrison are misusing company funds for personal travel. I have documentation showing that what was reported as a corporate retreat is actually a romantic getaway at Lakeside Resort, with all expenses being charged to the company. Please find attached photographic evidence and expense report documentation. I believe this warrants immediate investigation. I attached the photos I'd taken, the screenshots of their messages, and copies of the expense reports I'd found in Erica's home office. Reports that showed thousands of dollars in business expenses that were clearly personal in nature. Then I created an anonymous email account and sent it all to Morrison Industries' corporate office. The email went out at 11:47 p.m. on Sunday night. Tomorrow was Monday, day 9 of Erica's 2-week business trip. I had a feeling it was going to be a very interesting day. I was drinking coffee and reading the morning news when my phone rang at 6:23 a.m. Unknown number, but something told me to answer it. Hello? Is this Jake Morrison? The voice was male, panicked, cracking with stress. Who's asking? This is Daniel Patterson, your wife's boss. You need to tell Erica to get to the lobby now. Corporate security is here. They're asking about her, about you. I set down my coffee cup very carefully. Corporate security? They're saying you reported us for fraud, misuse of company funds. They have photos, Jake. Photos of us at the restaurant. They know about the suite, the expenses, everything. His voice was getting higher, more desperate. This will ruin both our careers. Please, you have to call them off. I didn't do anything wrong, Daniel. You did. Maybe you should have thought about the consequences before you decided to steal from your company. Steal? We weren't stealing. You were just what? Using company money to pay for your affair with my wife? That's called fraud, Daniel. And adultery. And a whole bunch of other things that are about to make your life very complicated. I hung up. The phone rang again immediately. This time it was Erica. Jake! Her voice was high, panicked, nothing like the confident woman who'd been calling me every night. What did you do? I exposed your business trip for what it really was. You don't understand? I understand perfectly. You've been lying to me for months. You and Daniel have been using company money to fund your affair. You were planning to leave me. Did I miss anything? Silence on the other end. Then, quietly, how did you know? You left your iPad behind. All those romantic messages between you and Daniel were right there, synced from your phone. The couple's suite, the private hot tub, the plans to finally be together. You really should be more careful with your devices. Jake, please, you're destroying my life. I'm not destroying anything, Erica. I'm just making sure there are consequences for your choices. You destroyed our marriage. You destroyed 22 years of trust and commitment. All I did was document it and send it to the appropriate people. The appropriate people? Your company's HR department and internal audit division. Turns out, they take a very dim view of executives using corporate funds for personal romantic getaways. I could hear voices in the background, official-sounding voices asking questions. Security guards, probably. Maybe police. They're saying there could be criminal charges, she whispered. That's between you and the law, Erica. You made your choices. Now, you get to live with the consequences. An hour later, Daniel called back. His voice was broken, defeated. Corporate is pressing charges. We're both fired. They're talking about a lawsuit to recover the funds. Why did you do this to us? I didn't do anything to you, Daniel. I saw you at the restaurant yesterday. I saw you feeding strawberries to my wife, while you were both registered as husband and wife in a suite paid for by your company. I decided that kind of behavior needed consequences. You were there. You saw us? I saw everything. The hand-holding, the champagne, the way she looked at you. 22 years of marriage, and she never looked at me the way she looked at you yesterday. Jake, save it. You wanted my wife? Congratulations. Now you can figure out how to support her without your executive salary. Good luck with that. I hung up and poured myself another cup of coffee. The morning was turning out to be very educational. At 10:15, Erica called from what sounded like a police station. They're charging me with embezzlement, she said, her voice small and scared. Jake, I need you to... You need me to what? Bail you out? Hire you a lawyer? Pretend this never happened? I need you to help me. I'm your wife. You were my wife. Now you're Daniel Patterson's problem. Except Daniel Patterson doesn't have a job anymore. So I'm not sure how much help he's going to be. What about us? What about our marriage? I laughed, and even I was surprised by how bitter it sounded. There is no us, Erica. There is no marriage. You made that decision when you started planning your new life with Daniel. I'm just making it official. You can't mean that. I've already contacted a lawyer. Divorce papers will be filed this afternoon. Adultery and fraud are excellent grounds for divorce in this state. You won't be getting much in the settlement. Jake, please, I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk at the store. This was a choice, a series of choices made over months to betray everything we built together. And now you get to live with the consequences of those choices. The line went quiet except for the sound of her crying. I'm sorry, she whispered finally. I'm sure you are. Sorry you got caught. I hung up and turned off my phone. I had work to do. The next few days passed in a whirlwind of lawyers, paperwork, and phone calls. Morrison Industries moved fast when it came to protecting their reputation and recovering their money. By Wednesday, the story had made the local business news. Corporate executives charged with fraud in romantic getaway scheme. Erica came home Thursday afternoon, escorted by a police officer who waited while she packed more of her belongings. I'd changed the locks on Tuesday, so she had to ring the doorbell of her own house like a stranger. I watched from the living room window as she loaded suitcases into her car, her movements quick and furtive, like she was afraid the neighbors were watching. They probably were. Word travels fast in a small town, especially when it involves fraud charges and affairs. She tried to ring the doorbell when she was done, but I didn't answer. We'd said everything we needed to say to each other. The lawyers could handle the rest. My daughter Emma called that evening from college. Dad, I saw the news online. Is it true? About Mom and her boss? I'd been dreading this conversation. It's true, sweetheart. I can't believe it. Mom always seemed so... you guys have been married forever. 22 years. But sometimes forever isn't as long as you think it's going to be. Are you okay? Was I okay? That was a complicated question. I was angry, hurt, betrayed, and oddly relieved all at the same time. The uncertainty was over. The wondering and suspecting and second-guessing myself. All of that was finished. Now, I knew exactly where I stood. I'm going to be fine, I told Emma. This isn't your fault, and it doesn't change how much I love you. I love you too, Dad. Do you want me to come home? No, honey, stay in school. Focus on your studies. I'll be here when you're ready to visit. After I hung up, I sat in the quiet house and tried to figure out what came next. The divorce would take a few months to finalize. The criminal case against Erica and Daniel would take longer. Morrison Industries was pursuing both criminal charges and a civil lawsuit to recover the money they'd spent on the business trip and other fraudulent expenses. According to my lawyer, Erica was looking at possible jail time and definitely at financial ruin. Her legal fees alone would be devastating, and if the company won their civil suit, which they almost certainly would, she'd be paying restitution for years. Daniel Patterson was in even worse shape. As the senior executive, he was facing more serious charges and a larger share of the financial liability. His wife had already filed for divorce and was reportedly seeking a significant portion of his assets before the civil suit could claim them. The 2-week romantic getaway that was supposed to be the beginning of their new life together had instead become